Game number one of Red Bull Wololo's Liereyy vs ACCM on the Passage. It began fast with ACCM opening scouts with the Vikings and Liereyy opening spears and walls with the Armenians. ACCM started off with killing 4 villagers and a fishing ship in feudal age, but then started to lose galley numbers as he was going up to the castle age. And from then on, it was all Liereyy. He didn't let ACCM breathe under his own docks, out microing him at every opportunity, distributing the damage to different ships to make sure he wasn't overkilling the units as well. And he never let go of his position, just held the water for the rest of the game. ACCM tried to retake the water with a castle and some docks, but he was never able to get back. Game 2, Golden Stream. Liereyy with the Dravidians opened 1 range archers and a dock, whilst ACCM with the Burgundians went full walls with all the eco upgrades. Liereyy sold his Dravidian wood to go faster to castle, and then we had I'll convert 1 archer, I'll convert it back, I'll convert 1 pikeman, I'll convert it back. Stupid map. A long stalemate over relics after that. Liereyy beats ACCM to the Imperial Age with a castle in the middle and a position that he would never lose. He trapped down 3 castles from ACCM before ACCM finally gave up and resigned. Game 1 between Hera and Hearttt was on Sandrift. Hera opened with 2 Vietnamese rangers and Hearttt with a Portuguese stable in a range. Hera picked an early villager and Hearttt responded with 1 in return. Neither player had any ranged unit upgrades when Hera finally got fletching and decided to dive on this army, killing everything that Hearttt had. He then reached Castle Age 2 minutes ahead of Hearttt. Dived into Heartt's base thinking he could do damage, but the skirms cleared him up without killing many villagers. And that was when Hearttt decided to go for a siege push with multiple mangonels. He was able to push the forward TC, but he was never able to take it down before he was pushed back. He dropped a forward castle on the same TC, but Hera hit the Imperial Age and Hearttt resigned. Game 2 was on the map Gulch. Hera with the Huns, Hearttt with the Hindustanis, both open scouts. Both players then added a range, but Hearttt was slower to his range and managed to get housed, meaning he couldn't mass numbers and defend the front of his base. It only took 1 fight to end the game in 7 minutes. Hearttt probably should have built a tower before resigning. He tried to build one in the last moment on his gold, but it wasn't quick enough and he lost his resources and resigned. 2-0 for Hera. Series 3 was the defending champion Tatoh against the rising star Sebastian. Map 1 was Depression. I loved this series. It was great. Archers beginning for Tatoh with the Tatars, scouts with the Huns for Sebastian. Nothing really happened in feudal. 1 vill kill for Tatoh and a forced tower from Sebastian. Tatoh reached Castle Age before Sebastian even clicked up and went 3 range cav archers. And then it was just raid after raid after raid for the rest of the game. Groups of cav archers from both players just trying to get damage on each side of the map. No one being able to wall, no one really being able to get castles up. Micro, micro, micro. Very fun to watch. Both players just dancing on hills, trying to dodge ballistics. There were 200 kills by 30 minutes and almost 400 by minute 40. Tato's idle time added up, though, and Sebastian was able to hit Imperial, forcing Tatoh to resign as he was nowhere near clicking up. Game 2 is the Passage. Scouts for Tatoh with the Bengalis, walls for Sebastian's Armenians. Tatoh picked off 2 villages early, but his fire galleys were pushed back by the galleys of Sebastian on water. Tatoh then hit Castle Age before Sebastian had even clicked up, but he lost his fish on the way up to the galleys. His plan forward was denied by archers and spears from Sebastian. The earlier Castle Age paid off as the fire ships came from the south to push Sebastian into 2 demo ships in the middle, the Tatoh signature. With all the galleys gone, Sebastian was unable to boom back into the game, although he tried. He got a defensive castle up, but once Tatoh hit the Imperial Age, Sebastian resigned. The deciding game was on Woodlands. Scouts from Tato's Khmer, 1 range skirms with spears for Sebastian's Lithuanians, an early central tower from Tatoh to defend its wood line, and then it was just raids everywhere, every direction, every unit. Tatoh had the lead when they took a big fight at the back of Sebastian's base. The big problem for Tatoh was he didn't seem to realize that Sebastian had bloodlines, which meant that his fight went a lot better than the numbers would have suggested, and he cleared up Tato's army. Then Sebastian decided to take a fight inside his own base, which he thought he would kill the spears faster than he did. The spears did a lot of damage, killed many of his scouts, and they pretty much mutually assured destruction. Everybody died. Raid from the back cleared up by Sebastian. More raids on the front on the wood lines, and the back on the berries. The Khmer houses came in clutch though. Tatoh then went for archers with pikemen, and the problem was he got a lot of damage, but the knights had more mobility and were able to do more damage. Sebastian takes it 2-1. MBL versus the Viper. Game 1, Cliffbound, Portuguese scouts opening for MBL, double range archers for Viper's Cumans. Cumans took map control early and got some kills from a hill in the back of MBL's base. They did get trapped in the back, though, and eventually picked off by skirms, but there was another raid on the right-hand side that didn't kill any villagers, but did press. Viper hit Castle Age first, broke in on the right-hand side with a group of crossbows, and then began the Mangonel War, MBL's speciality. And I think MBL managed to build 25 Mangonels in this game. So it was just Mangonel trade after Mangonel trade. Somehow they didn't take any massive shots to their archers, but MBL then raided the back of Viper's base and kept 2 Mangonels alive for a while. Viper got a castle on the right hand side as MBL siege pushed there, so MBL switched his siege push to the south instead. It took him quite a while to take down this TC because of Mangonel shots from Viper, but eventually he did take it down. Unfortunately, Viper then got 2-for-1 trade there with the Mangonels, which really slowed the push, and then he smartly castled that area. And MBL resigned early Imperial. Game 2, Mountain Dunes. Berber scouts to open for Viper and Vietnamese scouts for MBL. No one was able to do any damage in Feudal, with Viper slightly ahead to the Castle Age. Cav Archers and 2 TCs for MBL, with Camel Archers and 2 TCs for the Viper. MBL started to go Rattans from a castle in the south, but the Berber Camel Archers got in first and managed to do damage and raided the back of his base, killing several villagers first. And then the hole happened. The hole on the front of the base gives up 13 villagers for MBL. He was up to the Imperial Age as well, so he was just waiting for that to come in before he tried to push out. And now he was off wood. I think he only ended up with 3 villagers on wood, couldn't afford any resources at all, any upgrades or anything, so his Imperial Age was pointless. Viper built 3 castles in one spot and began to trip the castles down, and then just surrounded MBL with castles, taking down MBL's castles with groups of 5 to 6 trebs. MBL defended some of it with cannons, but it just wasn't enough, and the elite Genitors, which you don't see very often, got to be used against the Rattan archers, and that was the 2-0 for Viper. Winners bracket between Hera and Liereyy, both players going for a dock and scouts, and Hera, though, starts with a bang, taking out 3 villages with a demo ship. Hera went for a second dock and Liereyy didn't, probably because his villagers were dead from the middle. Scouts picked off 3 villagers from Liereyy in the back of his base. Then the focus returned to the water and the gold in the middle. Hera got a castle up. Liereyy tried to retake water with some docks and a castle, but Hera trapped it down and won the game. Game 2 was Hollow Woodlands, 1 range skirms for Hera, a stable and 1 range archers for Lierey's Cumans. First blood was to Hera, but Liereyy picked off 3 villagers in return on the wood line. There was a big fight on the berries, which looked like Liereyy was doing okay, and then he got cleaned up completely in the re-engage. The next big fight, though, would turn for Liereyy as the bloodlines that he had made a big difference in the fight. And the remaining scouts cleared up the final skirms. Hera invested in 3 stables, whereas Liereyy managed to click up to Castle Age with just 2 stables, meaning he got the knights out first and was able to push back Hera, but Hera did manage to sneak a raid around onto the berries at the back, killing several villagers. But the early Castle Age allowed Liereyy to mass up more knights. He was able to push Hera's base, and then when Hera decided to raid him, he was able to defend with more numbers before finally raiding Hera's gold and killing so many villagers, Hera was forced to resign. The siding game was on Cliffbound, and Hera went for something different. He decided to tower Lierey's gold whilst adding some spears and skirms. This Vil fight took forever. They went back and forth over and over again. Vil's dying, spears and skirms dying. Eventually, Liereyy was able to batter it down. So Hera walked away, came back, punched the stable for a little bit until he had stone, and towered the same spot again. And then we went for round 2. Vil fights. Skirms were able to pick off a good group of archers, though. Hera sat and repaired for a while whilst the villagers beat each other down. But Liereyy was yet again able to knock it down, so Hera came back for round 3 and built a tower in exactly the same spot again. Liereyy hit Castle Age and decided to build a castle on his town center whilst eagles raided him in the back. He figured that Mamelukes would counter eagles and skirms and everything that Hera was making at that point, which made sense. He got the castle up, but it did cost him a lot of villagers, whilst Hera just kept raiding him in the back on the gold. Liereyy never tried to wall up, but the Mamelukes did get to a point where they could start killing the eagles. They just started chasing eagles around the map, killing them. Tried to raid the gold a few times as well, whilst eagles raided the back of Lierey's base. The castle can only protect so much, and the back of the base was very open. The Mamelukes got to a pretty nice mass, though, and were able to start really running down the eagles, so Hera needed to switch into archers and monks. The game came down to a doubt castle in the middle from Liereyy. Hera got his castle up first. The eagles came in with the archers and just sniped all of the villagers. Hera moves on, and Liereyy will be playing tomorrow. Sebastian versus Viper. Viper starts off with a nice sacrifice to the town center just to assert dominance. Then Sebastian was able to break into Viper's base through a weak house and pick off 2 villagers. There was a counterattack for Viper, and in this map, the farmland is not allowed to be around your town center, so it's easy to pick off villagers if you break in. A couple field kills for Viper. Viper decided before he was going up to Castle Age that he would pressure the open base, but got caught out by skirms and scouts. So even though he was 33% up to Castle Age, he loses his entire mass. Felt like that was a game-losing mistake. Sebastian couldn't break into the base, though. And then the Viper found a hole. Sebastian really needed to still be on resources at this point, and he lost a lot for this. He ran villagers towards his other army, but he lost a few villagers, took some bad trades with the skirms. Sebastian's scouts and skirms were cleared up by knights, and the Desperation Tower forced up, but the crossbows were able to just walk underneath it and snipe more villagers. The army would finally get cleaned up, but it had done a lot of damage and really made up for Viper's earlier mistake getting caught out. Knights and cav archers were too much for Sebastian to deal with. He'd been off resources for too long, and he had no answer to that. The cav archers raided him, whilst the knights just picked off the skirms. GG, game 1. Game 2 is on Hollow Woodlands. Arranged for Sebastian's Franks to open a stable for Viper with the Khmer. He deleted a villager, second sacrifice in a row for the Viper. He then lost his wood line on the front to pressure and had a lot of his eco idled from the start. He tried to raid in the back with his scouts and lost those to spears as well, so it was a really rough start for him. That villager survived though, fortunately. And then Frank scouts with full upgrades got in on the front of the base, and that was the end of the game. 9 minutes. GG's. 1-1. And the deciding game on Golden Stream, Sebastian with an Armenian range, 2 archers and 1 spear, Viper with a Hun stable. Sebastian was full wall by minute 2, so there was no damage for Viper. Viper was just about able to wall enough to avoid damage himself. Sebastian hit Castle Age significantly quicker because he didn't create any units, went for 3 TCs, whilst the Viper went for 3 ranged cav archers and raided every angle he could find. Sebastian got a defensive castle on the front of the base, whilst the Viper added the siege workshop. Sebastian added a defensive siege workshop, but he placed it quite far forward. He got a nice little trap on those units, but he couldn't defend his siege from his siege workshop, so the Viper's siege got the advantage. There were occasional mangonel trades, but not really many created for Sebastian. The town center on the left was lost, and the mangonels started pushing in. Viper took a hill at the back and started raiding with the cav archers and using the mangonel to push away the composite bowmen. The composite bowmen can ignore the armor, but on the mangonel, but still, they don't have a lot of range. Viper just wouldn't let Sebastian out of his base, raided the woodlines wherever possible. He had a 20 villager lead, then a 30, then a 40 villager lead as he went up to the Imperial Age. He added 4 stables of light cav to snipe the siege and to raid further. Nice attack grounds from Sebastian, kept him in it, killing light cav. But he lost so many units elsewhere. The cav archers kept raiding, and eventually he couldn't take it anymore, and Sebastian resigned. He didn't even have the middle castles taken out. It was just too late. Hopefully this was useful to some people who missed the games yesterday. 20 minutes is a lot easier to catch up on than 4 hours of streams or however long it was. So hope you enjoyed.